guardians or warriors, spirits or humans, servants or gods. Throughout the ages, angels have fired our imagination. To some, they're a myth. To others, they're fact.
Oh, angels are absolutely real. What happens, though, is not everybody listens to their angels.
And as Christmas approaches, why is one angel always remembered?
The angel Gabriel tells Mary that she is going to bear the baby Jesus. That's the absolute heart of the Christian message.
Angels are everywhere at this time of year, in shops, on cards, atop trees. This school nativity play gives us the classic image of angels, the one familiar to children the world over. For many children, this is their introduction to Christ's story, and angels are there at the very beginning. Well, I'm going to ask a question, and then if you put up your hands, I'll pick someone, okay? I haven't asked the question yet. Okay, so what do angels do?
Angels come down from heaven and tell people the message from God.
They have a halo, yellow.
A white dress and a yellow halo.
They walk around barefooted and they have white wings.
According to the Bible, it's the Archangel Gabriel who delivers the message that Mary was to give birth to a special baby. And it's an angel who tells the shepherds that Jesus is born. The Gospels tell us that angels are present in the Garden of Gethsemane and at the resurrection. They frame Jesus' life on earth.
Mary, don't be frightened. God knows your heart and He loves you.
But angels aren't restricted to Christianity. They can be found in other religions too, like Judaism and Islam. And spiritual figures bearing a striking resemblance to our own idea of angels have been around for thousands of years.
I want to serve God, so let these things happen just the way you have said.
Let's go back in time then!
Early civilizations gave their gods and spirits non-human characteristics, often portraying them with wings or horns. Winged figures were shown with the pharaohs of Egypt thousands of years before the time of Christ. These spirits represented the other world, the journey from this life to the afterlife. And so they adorn Egyptian tombs.
In the ancient world, people thought of the world in 3 tiers. Hell is at the bottom, the earth is in the middle, and heaven is at the top. And that was the unseen world, the world of God. That was heaven. So when they looked up at the sky, they thought of the unseen world. That world was populated. For us today, of course, we don't think like that. Because when we look up there, we think of Star Wars and UFOs. But for the ancient world, it was full of beings, spirits, if you like. And those spirits came and visited us. They were all around us. They could come from one world to another. They could come from the 3rd floor to the 2nd.
From the ancient civilizations of Egypt and the Near East, they passed into other cultures. The Greeks and Romans had many of their own. Nike, the winged symbol of victory. Eros, a winged child with bow and arrow. Hermes, bringer of lost souls to the underworld, with his wings and flying shoes. Such figures were thought to be divine. But the angels in the Christian story are different. Their very name simply means messengers.
Angels are messengers, essentially, because God is so remote, so powerful, that human beings are so distant that you need some force in between. And so the Hebrews very quickly thought that they must have some force like that. And so angels appear. They have that essential role of bringing news to human beings, being the postal service for heaven.
Perhaps the most celebrated messenger angel of all is Gabriel.
Gabriel first appears in the Hebrew scripture in the Old Testament, in the book of Daniel. And there he's associated with the message that the world is going to come to an end. But then Christians took up their name for the most important moment in the Christian story, when the angel Gabriel tells Mary that she is going to bear the baby Jesus. That's the absolute heart of the Christian message.
It's angels that play a crucial role in the Christmas nativity story, set in the little town of Bethlehem. Angels first bring the news of the birth of Jesus to shepherds tending their flocks in the fields surrounding the town. Bethlehem today still has its shepherds and sheep. Tourists and pilgrims still visit the field where over 2,000 years ago the angels appeared to the shepherds. A grotto marks the spot. Nearby, a modern church also records the story. The pictures on the interior wall of the church tell the story of the angels and the shepherds. The picture above the altar is of the nativity scene we all know and love, with the shepherds, their sheep, the Holy Family, and the angels. The Church of the Nativity commemorates the place where the baby Jesus was born and where the shepherds paid their respects. The birth grotto is below the main body of the church. And though this may not be the setting for our most familiar depictions of the nativity scene, it is likely that the cave was once used as a stable. Here on the floor of the cave, a silver star marks the spot where it is believed that Jesus was born. But Gabriel doesn't only feature in the Bible. Jibril, as he's known to Muslims, appears to the Prophet Muhammad. Muhammad was meditating in a cave when Jibril appeared and pronounced to him, Iqra, meaning read. He then recited to him the verses of the Quran, the holy book of Islam. Here too, Gabriel is entrusted with delivering the holy word of God, bridging heaven and earth. Gabriel was an archangel. Early Christians believed him to be one of the most important spiritual figures linking heaven and earth. But that view was to be challenged. In the 5th century, a new vision of a hierarchy in heaven emerged, one that would become widely accepted by leaders of the Christian church.
I don't believe my eyes.
I don't believe my ears.
I don't believe you're still standing there. The angel said, seek and you will find. So what are we waiting for?
Suddenly the sky was filled with angels from above.
This vision was based on the writings of a 5th century Syrian monk, Dionysius, who came up with a detailed list of where the various angels stood in relation to God. He divided them into 9 orders, then ranked them according to their importance, with each order being assigned various roles in the realms of heaven and earth. According to this list, the highest angels were the seraphim and cherubim, those closest to God who exist only to worship him. At the very bottom are the archangels and angels, now seeming very lowly indeed, as guides and messengers to human beings. The Christian church accepted this hierarchy, but debate continued about what the angels actually were. Down the centuries, artists' depictions of angels have changed radically and led to one question being debated fiercely. Are angels male or female?
The Hebrew Bible usually describes angels as men when they appear on earth, so they don't usually have wings. As art develops, you tend to find that you've got the male form, but wearing a sort of feminine, beautiful robe and with wings, so there's a sort of increasing feminization of the angel.
In these earliest depictions of Christian angels in the catacombs of Rome dating from the 2nd century AD, there's little to distinguish them from ordinary humans. It wasn't until centuries later that they were portrayed as having wings, and from then on, they'd rarely be found without them.
Angels have wings for 2 reasons. One, so that we, the viewers, will recognise that they are angels. When they're described in the Bible, it's often not clear to the people that they're interacting with that these are angels. But of course, when we look at visual representations of those stories, we need to know who is the mortal and who is the angel. So wings are a way of making that very clear.
Artists, sculptors and authors have all grappled with how to bridge the earthly and the heavenly. How to portray these spiritual beings that don't belong to our world.
There are winged messengers in Egypt. There are winged messengers in Greece and Roman mythology. So it wasn't anything new. The gods had angels with wings. And maybe that was the best way of transport. After all, if you believed in the 3-tiered universe, how do you get from one place to the other? How do you get from heaven to earth? Well, the quickest way to do it was by flying. So angels are depicted with wings.
After wings, the most frequently depicted feature is the halo, a circular crown of light denoting holiness. It's been another convenient way for artists to draw attention to the divinity of angels. But do they have any basis in the Bible? The biblical story of Gabriel's visit to the Virgin Mary contains no visual description of the angel. Mary sees the angel, but more important than his appearance is what he has to say. She's to be the mother of the baby Jesus. The Church of the Annunciation in Nazareth. It marks the place where the angel Gabriel visited Mary to tell her that she was to be the mother of the Messiah, the Saviour of the world. The huge church stands over the site where 2,000 years ago stood the house of Joseph and Mary, and where Gabriel visited. The ancient remains of this simple site are preserved in this sanctuary, the spiritual heart of the church.
The Hebrew Bible usually describes angels as men when they appear on earth, so they don't usually have wings. But we find that when they're shown in art from the 4th century onwards, that this starts to change. This is, of course, the time that the Roman state adopts Christianity as its state religion. And you find that the idea of the angel gets very bound up visually with Greco-Roman goddesses like winged Victories, which are female goddesses in female robes with wings. So as art develops, you tend to find that you've got the male form, but wearing a sort of feminine, beautiful robe and with wings. So there's a sort of increasing feminisation of the angel. They're not made totally feminine either. I mean, they're very rarely actually shown as women. They don't have breasts, but they seem to develop into an ideal of beauty, which is quite feminine.
The Bible and Christian tradition refer to Gabriel, Michael, Raphael and Uriel. Although these are all male names, today both boys and girls play the parts of angels in the Nativity story. It's hard to imagine a more religious scene than this. The newborn baby Jesus surrounded by Mary and Joseph, the shepherds, the 3 wise men, and of course, the angels. For Christians the world over, it's the classic Christmas scene. Today, though, angels are no longer restricted to organised religion.
Great Spirit, we ask for your love, your light.
In some cases, angels have bypassed religion altogether.
We ask for the room to be filled with angels.
Angel group meetings provide a new form of belief.
To be able to hear them.
This one is held by medium Sharon May.
Smell their fragrance. And most of all, know that they are here.
Although many are scornful of this modern-day spirituality, it has its fervent followers. Websites contain accounts of angel sightings and interventions by guardian angels. This group hears a claim of how an angel averted a car crash.
I heard a voice say to me that we had to move from the fast lane into the slow lane. We were starting to go through the tunnel. Then we actually noticed there was a car that had stopped across both lanes. Now, we couldn't see that from where we were, but the angels could see, and they knew that had we been in that lane, travelling at the speed we were, well, I probably wouldn't be here to relay this story to you.
I've seen angels and felt angels since I was about a 3-year-old.
Yes.
Never, ever doubt your angels are always with you.
That's right.
Always.
As a human being, we need to have a reason for something. Maybe it's a scientist in us. We want to know that things can't just happen by coincidence, because if everything is a coincidence, then we have no control. If there's something there that we can ask for and that will bring help when we need it, then that gives us a comfort.
Everybody needs to talk to their angels.
Some see angels as protectors and friends. New faiths have spawned their own industry. There are countless angel shops and boutiques. Angels to decorate the home, as well as supposedly renew the spirit. A America. Home to the City of Angels, Los Angeles, and where so-called angelology has reached new heights.
How many of you really get it?
Here, psychics hold mass angel seminars claiming to use angelic power to heal and cleanse.
Lessons to us all is that it takes just as much time. Oh, angels are absolutely real. I have no doubt. As a clairvoyant, I see them around every single person. What happens, though, is not everybody listens to their angels, or we wouldn't have any cruelty or evil or even problems in this world. My work involves writing the messages I get from the angels, and then I give workshops where I teach people that angels are real and do something called angel therapy, which involves helping people to release their fears, release toxins from their body and their mind, and just generally to feel better with the help of the angels. Archangel Michael, we ask that you cut any cords of fear, letting go of guilt, which Michael says is the lowest energy.
Here, seemingly everyone has their own story or theory about angels.
All right, is there anyone here who has a question for the angels about their love life? Come on up, let's give them a hand.
Hi.
Come on up here, come on.
Come on up.
Yeah, you have to come right here.
Oh my God.
Yes, you didn't read that in the program brochure? Okay, Garrett.
I want to meet somebody that that I can love and will love me back with the same energy and passion. God, I'm looking for somebody with passion, please.
Passion's nice, yeah.
Passion for life, passion for love, just passion.
Beautiful.
The angel is reaching for, it's supposed to be a star, but it's shaped like a heart.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Beautiful messages. Beautiful.
It means peace, that I can go on with my life to know that I have some other comfort and divine guidance with God and with the angels also.
What they show me is not just this partner, but there's kind of a stack of friends that didn't live up. Like you've trusted people and you've done good for them and then you've been disappointed.
Everybody I ever cared for has always hurt me and stabbed me in the back, so I feel like I can't trust anybody or love anyone.
It's just a wonderful way to live, to have angels in your life.
Gently ask your third eye to open, awaken, and see love. Whatever you get is perfect. Bless it. Beautiful.
The idea of a protecting god or spirit is an ancient one. The Greeks believed that each person was assigned a protector for life at birth. The Romans similarly believed that each woman had a guardian angel called Juno and each man one called Genius. There's a Jewish tradition which says that each person is accompanied through life by two angels, a good angel to guide them and a bad one to tempt them. This idea was taken up by Christians, and belief in guardian angels boomed during the Middle Ages. Today, some Catholic children are still taught to say a prayer to their guardian angel.
Angiolino mio vicino, vieni presto, Signore Dio, fa che dormi compagnia da Gesù e Maria.
The idea of the guardian angel remains popular throughout the Christian world. In fact, some surveys have shown that up to half of Americans believe in them. For those who claim to have had encounters with angels, they come at times of individual stress. For others, they've appeared at moments of wider significance. War, when the desire to believe in a protective force is more powerful than ever. It's surely no coincidence that battlefield nurses during the First World War were commonly known as Angels of Mercy. But angelic forces of a different kind were not unheard of either. The scars of the battle still remain, an all too vivid reminder of past horrors. In August 1914, the British and German armies faced each other at Mons in Belgium. A fierce battle followed, culminating in the retreat of the British Army in the face of superior German forces. British soldiers put up a brave fight, and almost immediately rumours circulated of some kind of heavenly intervention. In Britain, the press leapt on the story as a piece of propaganda. There had been reported visions of angels, a saviour for the troops. The legend of the Angel of Mons was born. The British Army had been sustained by divine intervention. But was it an actual miracle? Or had the truth lost out to propaganda? The evidence suggests that the story is simply an urban legend, propagated by a patriotic but fictitious short story and part of a campaign of propaganda. What is undoubtedly true is that the stories of the guardian angels captured the imagination of the public. The idea of the angel appearing as a warrior dates back thousands of years. In Judaism and Christianity, we find the archangel Michael leading the heavenly armies. His name means "who is like God," and this name was the war cry of the heavens in the battle between good and evil. He's been adopted by many as a symbol or mascot. At Castel Sant'Angelo in Rome, Michael casts his protective gaze over the eternal city, standing guard, ready to defend its people.
The Archangel Michael is shown as a warrior angel. He's often shown wearing armour and is intended to be quite an imposing figure. This is someone who is vitally involved in the battle against the devil, and he needs to look like someone who actually can protect humankind. Often paintings show him defeating the devil, trampling on him or having cut off his head, and it's very explicit so that we know he's out there fighting for us.
Michael is also often shown with a set of scales, using them to weigh up the souls of humankind before deciding whether those souls will go to heaven or hell. Michael's role as protector of the forces of good was echoed in the 1950s when Pope Pius XII made him patron saint of policemen. Michael is the ultimate protecting angel. But what kind of protecting role do angels have in today's culture? In Gateshead stands a very imposing protector, Anthony Gormley's sculpture, the Angel of the North.
The northeast of England is very much about regeneration. It has been for decades, and I think you can really put the angel as a milepost for regeneration. The people of the area have taken it to their hearts. It is symbolic. They always see it when they're coming back on the train or on the road on the A1. They see it as a welcoming sign back to Gateshead, back to Tyneside, back to the northeast of England. And it's interesting that if you had asked a child in this area 10 years ago to draw an angel, they probably would have drawn an angel with feather wings. Today, they probably draw an angel with steel wings. So it's actually changed what has become a traditional image.
From Rome to the northeast of England, many see angels as protectors. And at Christmas time they're seen as the messengers of hope and love. But is there a darker side to them? In 1940s America, GIs returning from the Second World War established one of the world's most notorious gangs. One that's still going strong today.
We're part of society that doesn't fit in with the rest of society in a mainstream concept. There's an underworld wherever you go on this planet. When the veterans came back from World War II, members of the bomber wing and the paratrooper wing were a little displaced, probably didn't feel like they fit in too well, and continued the camaraderie and brotherhood that they had developed flying missions over Europe. You speak to anybody that goes through a period of time in their life when life's value doesn't seem to hold much value. Back in those days, they didn't have names for it. Nowadays, you can sit down and talk to a psychologist and come up with all types of different theories and ideas. But these guys were patriotic, courageous men. Rebellion is what initially drew me to the Hells Angels. We've been bombed, had hand grenades thrown in here, been gunfights out in the street. We've been the target of state and federal, prosecutions, which all started out as a big bang.
The gang's name is a profound statement. But who were the original Hells Angels? These are the fallen angels, and the stories of angels falling are violent. In one biblical account, Lucifer is jealous of God's love towards humanity and leads a revolt against him.
The concept of a fallen angel is based, of course, on Scripture. The first letter of Peter talks about God punishing sinful angels by sending them down into hell. There is a tradition also that angels had intercourse with humans, and that didn't please God. There's the story in Isaiah of the fall of Lucifer. Lucifer was a good angel, the bearer of light. That's what his name means. But because he disobeys God and he becomes proud, pride is the problem, he tries to get as good as God, he is thrown out of heaven.
The ultimate Hell's Angel is, of course, the devil. In the Bible, he's portrayed as a serpent or dragon, the leader of all the fallen angels. He's the tempter of Adam and Eve, and later of Christ himself. In the Quran, he's better known as Al-Shaitan, the classic tempter. As with the good angels, our image of the devil is based on the works of artists through the ages.
The easiest way that artists have been able to depict the differentiation between good and evil angels is quite simple. It's quite an easy trick to do. You just change the color, give him horns, protruding eyes, and sometimes add a tail. The thing immediately becomes evil and sinister.
The fallen angels or demons can invoke terror. But some good angels can be just as fearsome.
Angels can be quite frightening. Martin Luther, for example, prayed that he would never meet an angel. And when you look at the Bible stories, you can understand that. When Jacob, for example, saw the ladder from heaven to earth and angels going up and down on it, he was terrified. And he said, this is a place of fear. This must be the house of God. But fear comes into it. The women, when they went to the grave after the resurrection, found it empty, and angels standing, guarding the grave. And the first thing the angel says to the women is, don't be afraid. There must be a reason for people to be afraid of angels. They're not necessarily going to bring good news. They can be quite terrifying.
Our idea of angels is the result of theology, myth, and imagination all mixed together. One constant problem for artists has been how to visualize them. But over the years, one image has proved enduringly popular.
The most dangerous thing in his possession, in fact, was the bow and the arrow, and they could be used to pierce the heart of anybody. And therefore, he could do it surreptitiously because you weren't conscious of a child having this power.
There's no universally agreed image of angels. They can be four-headed, six-winged, and multi-eyed angels. But one of the most abiding and popular images of all is the angel as a cute, childlike cherub. They decorate Christmas cards and Christmas trees and have also made it onto our Valentine cards. The quintessential romantic Renaissance babies, often portrayed as winged young boys who strike at the hearts of couples in love. Of these, Cupid is the most famous. He's usually portrayed as a frolicking child, innocent and mischievous, but he carries a deadly weapon.
The most dangerous thing in his possession, in fact, was the bow and the arrow, and they could be used to pierce the heart of anybody. And therefore, he could do it surreptitiously because you weren't conscious of a child having this power. So it was, again, linked up with mythology, and it had an element of danger and wickedness. Therefore, that's why the cherub always smiles.
The cherubs also work visually very well with certain subjects, like, for example, the Virgin Mary with the Christ child on her lap. It seems very natural, then, that the Christ child is playing with other little children who fly down to get involved in whatever he's doing. We have to remember that when a lot of these paintings were made, many, many babies died. And even though the idea that angels are dead babies' souls is heretical according to the Church, this perhaps was something of a comfort. It certainly also makes these paintings appealing to us even now.
Cherubs are actually the cherubim, the second highest rank of angels. In the Bible, they're assigned the task of guarding the gates of Eden after Adam and Eve are thrown out. Over the centuries, they've been portrayed as children, sometimes even as babies. This image reached a peak at a time and a place. The time, the Renaissance. The place, Italy. In today's Italian cities, images of angels are still everywhere. The old Christian emperors, religious orders, and wealthy merchants generated a massive angel industry. One artist of the period stands out. Caravaggio, who painted his angels with extraordinary realism. In fact, for some church leaders, his figures were too realistic, too much like the humans who modelled for him to be sacred. Today, the angels of other Italian artists like Botticelli, Raffaello, and Michelangelo remain as marketable as ever. And they continue to inspire other artists throughout the world.
The reason for coming somewhere like this, to draw and to look at the angels that have been carved here and placed high up in the chapel there, is feeding the imagination. The subject is an interesting subject, in a sense, because we've created them somewhat in our own image. And it's that looking at ourselves, or at a better version of ourselves, which is one of the attractions that angels have to us all, that here is a human being in a more idealized state than we are. Perhaps we have athletes in the same way in this day and age, and models and film stars and pin-ups in the same way that people in the past had angels. They are, in a sense, more than people that we look up to.
It's not just artists who are fascinated by angels, children are too. From an early age, they instinctively know how to draw them, with wings, a halo, white robes, and light. They often draw them in choirs, just as they've been portrayed in paintings for hundreds of years.
Angels get shown in choirs and playing music, I think, for two reasons. Partly because it is there in the Bible. Psalm 150 actually describes the use of timbrels and drums and voices and harps and that sort of thing. But also, of course, it relates to the people who are going to look at these images. It relates to how we celebrate and honour special occasions, special people on earth by playing music.
Renaissance artists gave angels the popular musical instruments of the age. The lute, the fiddle, the flute, the sackbut, all were deployed as part of a celestial orchestra. Harps and trumpets are the instruments that many of us now associate with angels. But just as the angels can deliver bad news as well as good, their music may not always be comforting. Gabriel's first appearance in the Bible is in the book of Daniel, not to bring glad tidings, but to deliver an ominous message.
The book of Daniel is a book of prophecy. It's a vision of the future. This prophecy is about the end of days. It's about the end of time. And Gabriel is the figure who brings the essential message to Daniel of what God's plans are. Jesus himself talked about the trumpet shall sound, and the Apostle Paul noted that fact about Jesus. So there it is in the biblical narrative. It's going to happen at the end of time. The trumpet shall sound. One of the very few things we know absolutely certainly that Jesus said. But not angels necessarily attached to it. The link is that angels are associated with the message of the end of time. And so you just add the trumpet to the angel and, hey presto, you've got a visual image.
Today, we're surrounded by angels. In religion, art, and in culture. There's a deluge of information about them. Their history, their supposed ability to guide and protect. There are countless definitions, descriptions, and even alleged encounters. Our fascination with them shows no sign of diminishing.
The fairies will help you with all earthly concerns.
And against Bible teachings, angels are even adored and worshipped.
The material world hasn't delivered all that we want. So the secular age hasn't been all that successful. People are looking for something else. You find this in what is known as New Age spirituality. It isn't necessarily Christian spirituality, but it is a spirituality. It's to do with the unseen. So the belief in the unseen is there.
They're part of our heritage, they're part of our mythology, they're part of our history, they're part of our tradition. They are symbols. They have also been used as protectors, as reminders, as guardians, and are always present, according to some people, by your side.
I think perhaps some people, when we talk about angels now, think of them as a little bit cliched, perhaps particularly where art is concerned and commercial art now. There's so much on every Christmas card and perhaps visually tied in a bit with fairies. Maybe they don't seem like such a serious or important source of inspiration for us now. And yet it's clear all around us that they do still inspire people.